we should be doing to protect the things that they fell in favor for. We're not unique, our Tea Party. Well, yes, we are unique, but we're not unique in the notion that people meet across this nation, and however the venues are, some once a month. We're crazy enough to do it once a week. But most Tea Party people want to give remedy to this country. They don't want to give our borders up. They do not want our culture and our language to be different. And they are rising to the occasion. They probably, God forbid, but God, I pray to God that we would be willing to fall in favor. Because how could we ask those to go in our name if it was that we were unwilling to fall in favor as we rise to rescue? So this brings us to a quandary. Who are we and why do we meet? I say, the Will Run Tea Party Caucus, your director, I say we are constitutional conservatives. And if you think about those two terms, it's redundant. Think about that. If you're a constitutionalist, you're going to be a conservative. I don't think I can compartmentalize the meaning of a constitutional liberal. Because a liberal wants to expand government beyond the means of the Constitution, beyond the protection of the Constitution. So how can you say a constitutional liberal? They believe that the Constitution is a living document and can be interpreted by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can actually add to it, which they have done. Thank you, John Roberts. So what are we standing for? What do we rise for? What are we willing to fall in favor of? I say it's constitutional conservatism, because that plays on all fronts, folks. John Tomlinson is here tonight, and thank you for coming, John. Whenever he's here, I like to speak about the sacrifice this young man has made for us. So he has not, in a real sense, fallen in favor of this flag, but he went willingly. We sent him in silence because we didn't pay much attention to the Gulf War initially. We did believe in our government. We believed in our president. We believed that he had weapons of mass destruction. And you know, the reality is, folks, he did have it. It just wasn't nuclear weapons. Nobody ever said he had nuclear weapons. But those weapons weren't the reason we went. The weapons weren't the reason that we sent John Tomlinson over there, who ended up having to blow up the very weapons of mass destruction that the whole country of politics right now denies that Saddam Hussein had. It makes me sick to my stomach when I hear a Republican especially, Democrats do it too, will say, well, we were wrong about that. We didn't have the weapons of mass destruction. All you have to do, folks, we are blessed in this caucus. All you have to do is ask that man right there, John Tomlinson, if he had weapons of mass destruction. Because John is paying a price. Sorry to talk about you so much, John. But I believe that God has sent you to this caucus because I talked about this long before you came. And John Tomlinson is verification of the notion that he had those weapons of mass destruction, because there was a reason that George Bush daddy, and that's who I refer to him, a little disrespectful, but he was a CIA, director of the CIA, and there was a reason that he thought Saddam Hussein needed chemical and biological weapons. That John Tomlinson ended up under the 82nd Airborne being commissioned to blow those weapons up rather than retain them. See, we could have retained them. We could have taken them back. But there was a reason we wouldn't do it. There was a reason they wanted them blown up, folks. I'm a little angry every time I get to talk about this. So when you come, John, I get angry. I'm so appreciative of what this man has done. He has given as much as a person could live and still live. He has given as much as a person could and still be living. You just don't know what he's going through. I'm not going to take much of our time to do that. And the VA hospital seems to be doing pretty good by John. But he's got a lot of issues. One of them is remorse over having to blow up those weapons on the order after the village people had to go back into their homes, which is where they put those weapons. 40 warehouses, size of Sam's Club, folks, full of the biological, chemical, and nerve gas. John was commissioned in order to blow those up. But before he lit the fuse or pushed whatever it is that they do, he was ordered to get a certain distance away, and they had to abandon the people they were holding at bay and wouldn't let them go back into their own villages and towns, which were in the vicinity of those. And soon as John followed orders and his division followed orders to get out of harm's way, those people fled back into their homes. And the order was given. But he didn't blow them all up. But the reason they had to blow them up was there was insignias on them. There was names of origin, places of origin. And guess where one of them was? I'm going to have John spell out loud enough to where it can be heard. John Tomlinson is going to tell you with his own words the most consequential place of origin that those weapons of mass destruction came from, because he saw them written on the name tags, on the barrels and the boxes or cards, whatever. John, tell us where what the most significant place was.
United States of America.
Place of origin, United States of America. You know the consequence of this, folks? This is the man who sat on them and set the charges, who has to live with the consequence of the fact that he blew up families. We need to help him with that. We need to understand that we sent him in silence. He shouldn't have to bear this alone. When he lays his head on his pillow at night, it ought to be us who are helping him with that burden. I mean it. I'm angry. I'm angry every time I think about it. And I think about those people in the belly of that warship who was only concerned about if that flag still flies. And right now I'm going to tell you, it's in danger. That flag that John sort of fell in favor of, and so many before us have fell in favor of, and we kind of, the Tea Party people are not standing to rise for remedy anymore, because we are settling for the consequence of who we will put in place. You're going to find out tonight, I'm going to show you a video of why I have no confidence in Donald Trump, and that's not going to be our issue tonight, Donald. But I have no confidence that Ted Cruz is the person who we would hope he would be. Because there is a certifiable history on the part of Ted Cruz about a thing called the North America Union. I'm going to show you a video on it. It has to do with world trade, the World Trade Organization, the World Trade Centers, all of the happenings in this world that have been necessarily evil have been surrounded by the pursuance of world trade and the thing that we identify as the New World Order, which Bush Daddy is going to talk about that in this video. And the New World Order is free trade. Who does free trade benefit? The free trade benefits the elites, folks. Now, we think we love it. If you love NAFTA, you're going to fall in love with the Pacific Trade Agreement, because it's NAFTA on steroids. The Pacific Trade Agreement is the reason that I began to question Ted Cruz, because he voted for a thing called cloture in the procedure of the Senate, that had he not voted for cloture, the fast track authority on the Pacific Trade Agreement would have never been given to the president. This is hugely consequential, and there's nothing more important that we could be talking about. I know we got conventions going on, we got people who are trying to get elected. I have to ask for some water. My mouth's getting dry. Did I look like Marco Rubio? I don't care. He shouldn't have cared either. He shouldn't have tried to sneak back into the camera like he didn't leave. But anyway, that's a little bit funny. What Ted Cruz did on May 22nd, he voted for cloture. Now, fast track authority is a thing, you need to understand what that is. Even Ronald Reagan used it, fast track authority. Even every president after him using fast track authority, but it has to be renewed every 6 years. What was the first torpedo, I'll call it, of fast track authority? It was NAFTA. Fast track authority can be given to presidents for a lot of issues that they don't have the authority to do unless Congress gives them the authority, but never treaties, folks, never treaties. Before Ronald Reagan, they never gave the president the authority to negotiate a so-called amendment or an agreement, but it is by dictionary definition a treaty. The Founding Fathers would have never been interested in having a president being able to negotiate an agreement that had to do with the absolute soul of a country. That needed to go through the Senate through advice and consent. It's how they put that in the Senate responsibilities, because you have to get 67 votes